Today is the last Saturday in June, and we're in the Trail Canyon parking lot. We're going to head up to Mummy Mountain today. There's no shot of Mummy Mountain from this spot. Well, maybe a little bit. Let's take a look. There we go. Mummy Mountain. A piece of it, at least. The beautiful thing about this area is we're surrounded by cliffs. Been an incredible amount of snow this year. I've made 2 attempts up Griffith Peak area, stopped by snow. So hopefully we'll get all the way up Mummy Mountain. It's been 2 weeks since my last attempt up Griffith Peak, and so hopefully the snow's melted. The amazing thing about this is that just 30 miles away, it's been about 100 degrees during the day, 100 to 105 degrees, and yet we get socked in by snow just 30 miles away from Las Vegas. So here we go up the Griffith Peak, well, up the Trail Canyon trail to the North Loop, and then up to Mummy Mountain. Well, this Trail Canyon trail has a pretty healthy incline. To give you an example, we've been ascending at a rate of about 300 feet every 10 minutes. For Portlanders, that's the equivalent of ascending Rocky Butte every 10 minutes, 10 minutes after 10 minutes, 1,000 feet every half hour if we keep up the pace. I've slowed down to take this video. Beautiful, beautiful trail. You can see the pine trees. Surrounded by pines, there's some aspen. We haven't seen any bristlecone pines yet. Now we're looking back at the Griffith Peak side. Griffith Peak is to the left, but you can see with all the snow there, why this side of Kyle Canyon that goes up Mummy is still a better hike than the other side where we ascend to Griffith Peak and we encounter all this snow that you're looking at. And it doesn't look like so much, but when you're up there on the trail, steep inclines and snow fields that just go straight down, and it's just drudgery. So we're going to continue on up toward Mummy Mountain. You can see it through the trees if you look carefully. We'll get better views as we get higher. Anyway, we're going up toward Mummy Mountain, and we're going to find that this side of the canyon has a lot less snow until we hit the final approach to Mummy Mountain. 11,500 feet, by the way, for Mummy Mountain. We started at 7,600 feet at the trailhead today, just a few minutes ago. Pretty amazing how fast this climbs. Love the pine trees here. Beautiful, beautiful pines against the sky and the clouds. I love this this bark that just of the tree trunks that just stands out. So amazing, like a painting. Anyway, we're continuing on up, and we'll see you when we have a better view. Well, there's Mummy Mountain coming into closer view, and the final ascent is, well, the The steepest ascent is that area right there. We have been ascending at a rate of 2,000 feet every hour, and so far it's been a half hour. We've ascended a total of 1,000 feet, and here we're looking at Griffith Peak right there, and you can see the snow on this across Kyle Canyon. If this trail is 1,000 feet every half hour, 2,000 feet an hour, the incline's going to double when we hit this final approach, or the mid approach, I'd say. Final approach is up in this area, and hopefully we won't be stopped by snow. Griffith Peak again. And yeah, I'm glad I came up this side of Kyle Canyon today, because even though it doesn't look like there's a lot of snow in that area just below and to the right of Griffith Peak, right in the center of the screen here, that snow is pretty deep and steep. So I'm going to give it another week to melt away before I tackle Griffith Peak. So onward, up the trail toward Mummy Mountain. Well, here we are at the junction, the first junction on the Trail Canyon Trail, and if you head down this direction, you're on the North Loop Trail. On the other hand, if you head down this direction, it's Trail Canyon. Up this direction is the North Loop Trail. And we're looking at Mummy Mountain. I've been passed by 3 trail runners so far who are ascending twice as fast as I'm ascending. And I'm ascending 2,000 feet an hour. They're probably ascending 2,000 feet every half hour. Pretty amazing. But you can see the trees changing a bit. Here's one of our first bristlecone pine trees. We're at 9,080 feet at this point. Another little bristlecone pine. So you can see the difference between pine trees. There's another bristlecone pine. The one on the right is a bristlecone. I'm not sure what the one on the left is. Maybe it's ponderosa. Not sure. A lot of different types of pine trees here. Beautiful, beautiful clouds, blue sky. As you can see, the winds are coming up. Here's Mount Charleston. So we're going to head on upward. We're going to circle around the left side of this cliff area, which is Mummy Mountain. And we're going to go around the left side. And that's where the incline is going to increase. It's going to about double what double or triple what we've been doing here, which is a really steep incline as it is. And you can see that everything's so steep around this area that there's a lot of avalanche control happening. Undetonated explosives. I haven't seen one yet, but they evidently feel like you could encounter them. And then here is the trail marker, let you know which trail goes where and the distances. So let's continue on upward. It's getting more and more beautiful as we go. Here we have one of the last greatest views of Mount Charleston from this trail perspective. And then you can see the whole ridge system that goes between Mount Charleston, and just to the left of that sharp pointed cliff is, and behind is, Griffith Peak. So this is a really nice perspective to see the area between Griffith Peak, the ridge that we ride between Griffith Peak, right along the top of that ridge, and up to the summit of Mount Charleston. Another look at the Griffith Peak area and the ridge going toward Mount Charleston, which you see that snow-capped area. And once again, look at all that snow. You got to wade through that snow if you're going to climb Griffith Peak at this point. So I'm going to give it another week. And here we are continuing along the trail. We are going now to an area, we're approaching a little year-round spring. We're going to see that emerging in just another 30 seconds here. Now it's very interesting. There's a water trough here that normally, even in the middle of the summer, this trough is filled with water. And so I ask myself, why isn't there water in this trough? And the answer is, it's all locked up in snow above this area, which then leads us to believe that we're going to encounter snow in, not too far into the future here. You see aspen trees and the bristlecone pines are really taking over at this point. We're at, what is it? About 9,500 feet. And about 9,000 feet, we begin to see bristlecone pines taking over the other pine tree. Everything we see is bristlecone. Well, almost everything. Very beautiful trees. They are up to, I think the oldest bristlecone pine is around 4,000 years old. So trees this size are easily at least 1,000 years. We'll be seeing some bristlecone pines that are 2,000 years and above before we're done today, if the snow doesn't stop us. Okay, continuing on up the trail. Well, we've ascended about 2,400 feet so far, and if you think that this is a steep ascent, it's about to get a lot steeper. There you see the tree. If you look closely, you can see an M and an arrow pointing to the right. And we look to the right, and what do we see? A very steep incline with a lot of scree, gravel. It's kind of like, it's a feeling of being an ant climbing up a pile of sand. And this is probably about 1,000 feet ascent in less than a mile. In fact, it might even be a quarter mile, who knows, maybe half a mile, but it's very, very steep. And once we get to the top of this, we'll take a right. We'll go along the ridge up here and then circle around to the left and find about a quarter mile after that, we'll find an opening that leads to the top of Mummy Mountain. However, we don't know what the snow situation is going to be. It may be locked in with snow, and if that's the case, then we won't make the top of Mummy Mountain today. However, here we are just about, we're at 10,000 feet now, and we're only 1,500 feet below the summit of Mummy Mountain. So it'd be great if we could make the summit today. No promises. And then we look around. Here's the trail, North Loop Trail, continuing up, and it goes around this rocky outcrop, and then it continues on up, circles around to Mount Charleston, but this north side of Mount Charleston is really locked in with snow, with very steep, treacherous drop-offs, and you're on ice. So it's not ready yet for climbing. It may be August until that's ready. And so we look across. We were recently on our trail to Griffith Peak. We looked at this very area from the other side of Kyle Canyon. So now we're looking across Kyle Canyon, and here is Griffith Peak. And you can see a lot of snow still. That's why I didn't climb that side today. And we summit Griffith Peak on that trail, the South Climb Trail, and we go along this ridge to the right of Griffith Peak, and Mount Charleston would be right around the corner. We will do that in a week or two. We'll give that an attempt. But for now, guess what? We are going straight up this incline. And you see by the angle of the trees, which go straight up, that this incline is pretty steep. So we're heading up toward Mummy Mountain now. We're about 3/4 of the way up that steep scree incline, and you can see it continues on at a very steep incline here, and this is looking down the area we just came up, and then looking up toward that ridge that leads from Griffith Peak to Mount Charleston. You can see the snow on the ridge, a bristlecone pine in the foreground, and one of the reasons I stopped here is that this is a key to reaching the upper North Loop without ascending and descending. So if you're If your goal is to do the loop and take in Griffith Peak, Mount Charleston, and Mummy Mountain without descending and have to ascend this frightening little incline, either at the beginning or the end of your run or hike, where it's going to just sap your energy, what you want to do is you can find an upper approach to the upper loop. And here is the key. You see that tree trunk that's hanging there? You're going to skirt along the edge of this cliff system, pass right under that tree trunk, and then along, and it's kind of a touch and go thing because there's a trail that appears and disappears, but it disappears more than it appears. And you're going to go along the top of this, you're going to hit this ridge, and then this ridge, and then continue along that upper area. Actually, once you get around this one first corner, and between that fallen or suspended log and this first hill here, once you get to that first hill, it's surprisingly simple, and you can continue along. You hit the upper north loop trail at about 11,000 feet, which is close to where we are right now, and continue on around to Mount Charleston and then over to Griffith Peak, and then you've taken in Mummy, Charleston, and Griffith Peak. Here are a couple climbers down here. Let's see. Yeah, there they are. And you can see it's very slow going up this scree hill. You take a few steps, you rest, you take a few more steps, one step at a time here, and you rest because it's just such an incline, fighting gravity all the way up. And not only gravity, but a lot of loose rock. So this is probably the most challenging part of the climb, except today we may encounter snow a little further up, which makes for a challenging final 500 feet ascent to the top of Mummy. We'll see how far we get. Mummy, by the way, let's see if we can, I'm on a pretty precarious spot myself right now. There's Mummy Mountain. We're going to get to the top of this area and then take a right, continue on for about an eighth of a mile. Then we're going to take a left and continue on for about a quarter mile, and then we find a little cliff opening. I'll show you as we get there. Beautiful bristlecone pines all the way, so that makes this experience a little more enjoyable. Looking forward to getting to the top of this scree hill. Well, here we are. I like to name sections of trail. I didn't know whether to call this the horrible half, the horrendous half. I think I'm going to call it the horrifying half. Half mile straight up, and here we are at the top, and it really begins to look beautiful up here. We're at around 11,000 feet. We've got another 500 feet to ascend to get to the top of Mummy Mountain. So we're going to continue along this ridge. We're going to take a left up here. Let's see if we can see a little better from where we are. I guess I'll have to show you a little later. But right behind that beautiful bristlecone pine tree, if you get a good look at the cliff system, there is an opening that goes to the top. I think we'll get to that opening. There's some snow along the way, but it's not looking too horrible at this point. So we may get very far here today. We don't know. There is Griffith Peak and the ridge to the right leading to Mount Charleston. You can't, oh yeah, you can see Mount Charleston. What do you know? There's Mount Charleston. So, get another look at this ridge. There it is between Griffith Peak and Mount Charleston. You see there's a lot more snow on that side than there is here. So last time when we were up on the Griffith Peak trail and we got stopped by snow, we looked across Kyle Canyon and noticed that there isn't as much snow here. And as I said, we're about 11,000 feet. We only got to 9,000 feet before we stopped by snow a couple weeks ago. I don't think it has melted significantly since then. Now let's see. Mount Charleston Village. Straight down in this area, which shows how much we've climbed. You're looking at around 4,000, above 4,000 feet elevation between Mount Charleston Village and where we stand at this moment. So this trail is straight up. Okay, another shot of Mount Charleston Village. Yeah, you can just see the tip of it right in the center of the screen. Okay, onward and upward. And we'll see how far we get. You can see that there is some snow, nothing really super significant, just patches, but we've got 500 more feet ascent, and if this gets a little more extensive and deep and angled downward to a drop-off, that could stop us. So we shall see. Okay, here we are. Good view of the final approach to Mummy Mountain. And you can see a little V-shaped canyon. That is the final approach. To get there, what we're going to do is we're going to continue up this ridge that we're on. We're going to ascend to that snowy area. See a few patches of snow. Right at the base of the cliff system, we're going to take a left and continue on to the V-shape opening and then on up to Mummy Mountain. And to give you an idea where we are, beautiful bristlecone pines up here. Few little patches of snow. We're looking down on Lee Canyon. There's a ski area down there which we'll come into better view a little later. Off in the distance, we're looking toward Death Valley. Telescope Peak is in that area, and I'm not sure exactly where it is. It could be that little notch of a peak Yeah, you can barely see it in the background. That's the Madre Mountain range. And here we have Mount Charleston. And that ridge system between Mount Charleston and Griffith Peak. And if you're going from Griffith Peak to Mount Charleston and then want to come straight to Mummy without descending what we call the horrifying half, which is right down there, what you're going to do is take this ridge right in the center of the screen, and it's kind of touch and go in the beginning. Turns into a very nice open ridge area, and you end up at the Upper North Loop Trail and then circle around to Mount Charleston. So that's the route that I would take if I'm going straight from Mount Charleston to Mummy. So here we are, and continuing on upward. Okay, here's the ridge we just ascended after reaching the top of the horrifying half mile. We took a right, we ascended this ridge, and here you can see trail appearing, disappearing, and we do not go up those cliffs. I guess you could climb those rocks, but the more natural, less mountain climbing way is just to skirt along the edge of this rock system and take a sharp right and hug the edge of the rock system up to the next plateau, and then you take a sharp left and continue on to the V. So that's pretty much that'll get you through this part of the adventure. Okay, we just came to the top of that ridge. We took a left. Now we are skirting around the edge of this little cliff system, and those trees are a good marker. When there's no snow, you can go straight up along the edge of those rocks, and you ascend to the top of this next hill, and then you're going to take a sharp left and continue along the edge of the Mummy Mountain cliffs until you get to the V-shaped passageway up to the top of Mummy Mountain. Suddenly, a path reappears at the base of the cliff system. Here we are. Had to go up another pretty steep incline to get to this point. When I got to the top of that ridge I was on before, I took a left, skirted around a rocky outcrop, and then headed straight up to reach the point where I am now. And there is, of course, Mummy Mountain, and we're going to skirt the bottom of this cliff system until we reach that V-shaped opening. You can't see it from here, but it's up ahead. There's some patches of snow ahead. Here's a view of where we stand. Give you an idea. A lot of beautiful bristlecone pine trees here. Let's see if we can get out into the open a little more. There you can see Griffith Peak, the ridge between Griffith Peak and Mount Charleston. There's Mount Charleston, and that's pretty much where we are. The ridge that I just climbed to get to this point. This is an alternate way up that ridge, but there are some little rocky sections, little 6 to 8 foot rocky boulder sections that you have to climb over if you take that way. That's why I skirted around the rocky section down there. And I know this is really helping you, but anyway, we'll continue on up. Maybe on the way down I'll give you a little more of a view of where we are and this one section that I had to skirt to get to where I am right now. Okay, onward. Continuing to skirt along the base of the cliff. There is the cliff. And we are at the very base. And you can see a sort of trail that appears and disappears in the snow. Interesting old bristlecone pine right here. Very beautiful the way it's aged. And here's the trail we've come along. I've got my spike shoes on, so when I hit sections like this that are steep drop-offs, I don't want to start sliding down that. Okay, and here is a shot of Lee Canyon ski area. And let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. There we are. See a little parking area down there? There's a reservoir. Up a little ways more. Yeah, I promise there's a reservoir. I don't know that I can actually zero in on it from this perspective. Let's see. I don't know. I hope you can see it better than I can see it. Little reservoir. And then the ski area. Yeah, there's the reservoir. Then off in the distance, I don't know, that very faint white mountain range. You see the tips of the mountains stretching across very faintly in the distance there. That may be the Sierra Nevada. Not sure. And then just to the left of this bristlecone, you might be able to pick out very faintly, I think that might be Telescope Peak, not entirely sure. Death Valley at the base of that, but who knows. So here we are, continuing on up very close to the V Canyon that leads up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Here we are at the V Canyon Passageway to the summit of Mummy Mountain. So far, no significant snow to this point. Of course, we had to cross a few little snow fields, but with my spiked shoes, that was not too hard. I got some good traction, and so no, it didn't slip once. So we're going to head up this V Canyon, and I'll show you along the way what we're facing. Little look around, 360-degree view, Let's take a look over this way. Okay, down Lee Canyon. There's a good shot of Mount Charleston. And here's the passageway at the base of the cliff that we just traversed. So now on up the final approach to Mummy Mountain. Here we are heading up the V. I will see if I can give you kind of an experience of what this is like. Pretty narrow, but that's actually good because there are rocks to hold on to on either side. There are a few spots that are a little dicey up here, so let's see if we can give you an idea what going up this V is like. Okay. If I can just get around this little edge here with one hand and one hand holding the camera, there we go. So it's pretty much continue up stuff like this. Then there are a few little steep, dicey spots further up, but we've just about got this conquered and there's no snow to speak of. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off so I can use both hands and continue on up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Well, good news, we've pretty much licked this final approach. There you can see what we just ascended, the V, and beautiful framed view of Mount Charleston. Here's a lonely bristlecone pine. Looks like it's growing straight out of the rock, and you can see that it looks like it's battled a lot of wind and snow and the elements. And we look up, and we're pretty much, it's smooth going. Right at the top of this ridge here is the summit of Mummy Mountain. So we're going to see the summit today. Okay. Oops. Yeah, the footing isn't the very best in this spot. I'm halfway up the V and there's not a whole lot of places to put your feet and everything's a loose rock. But hey, we're here. And that's all that matters. Okay, continuing on up. Okay, we have topped the summit of Mummy Mountain. There's a little, 1/10 of a mile walk, maybe about 100 yards between here and the true summit. But we're on the plateau. The reason I stopped here is I just want to show you that when you're up on Mummy Mountain, be sure to look back to see things like this little cairn. It shows you where the opening to the V approach is. Otherwise, you're going to be on the way back. If you lose that perspective, you're going to end up facing cliffs. And you're going to wonder, oh my gosh, how do I get down? Where is the opening? So be sure as you top this V to look at the cairn here. Look backwards a lot. Look at, for landmarks like that dead bristlecone pine tree. And you should be all right. So as you can see, I'm not the first person to top Mummy Mountain today. But here we are. Okay, continuing on up. And as you can see, it's very gradual at this point because basically you've made the summit. Now, the thing I like about the Mummy Mountain summit is that I would say this is the most beautiful summit of, if you take Griffith Peak and Mount Charleston, and you look at Mummy Mountain. Mummy Mountain is an amazing plateau, and the bristlecone pines up at the top make some beautiful sculptures. You see ones that have died and are burnished in the sun, bleached in the sun, and there's a lot of this. What we're seeing now is nothing like, you know, what you see if you traverse the whole length of this summit. But I would say when you're on top of this summit, you probably are, you probably have about a half mile. It's about a half mile long and 200 yards, 100 yards, 200 yards wide. Just amazing up here. I could live up here, at least right now. But I'm sure that in the winter, the wind is roaring and it's very cold, snowy. You know, the interesting thing about this is just 30 miles away in Las Vegas, it's 100 degrees right now. And here it's probably between 60 and 70 degrees. This is why I like to be up here. Another reason is because I get cabin fever during the summer in Las Vegas. And here I can be out in the open in the middle of the summer. It can be 110 degrees and I'm in 70 degree temperature and I can see all around. It's it's just a different climate zone up here. And there you can see Mount Charleston, and we'll take a look at Griffith Peak. Well, let's just walk around here, give you a sense of the beauty of this area. My favorite summit in the Spring Mountains. Takes a little to get up here. The trail is not marked. It appears and disappears, and you're climbing over rocks and navigating between cliffs. But, you know, once you get up here, it's definitely worth it. And so you can see the bristlecone pines that have weathered the ages have just created some beautiful sculptures up here on Mummy Mountain. Now just look at these. Is there anything more beautiful? You could work and sculpt for generations and not come up with beauty like this. And it just doesn't end. So you're getting an experience of what it's like to be at the summit of Mummy Mountain. The true summit is just at the top of that little hill up there. But I wanted to walk the length because the real beauty is in seeing the whole length of this area. And you can see more, bristlecone pines that have weathered and bleached in the sun. So truly amazing. Let's go just a little further. It took so much to get up here that you really want to get an experience of the top of this mountain, as long as you expended so much energy getting up here. But look at this. Just amazing. Just truly amazing. This is why I do this, to see sights like this. I get to see this every Saturday. It takes being in shape, regular running every day in order to be able to be in a place like this. I run about 5-6 miles a day off road, so that I live at the edge of an abandoned golf course, and so I run that golf course, and that keeps my ankles very strong, and the running itself helps me to be in a place like this and not be so tired that I can't enjoy this. I feel entirely refreshed at this moment, which enables me to just bask in the wonder of where I am. You could be anywhere in the world. People travel across the world to different destinations. And if they can see something like this, that's an amazing thing. I traveled 30 miles and climbed 4,000 feet. And here I am. Trailhead was about 30 minutes from my home. And so, we end up 30 miles plus 4,000 feet. We end up on such a beautiful, beautiful plateau, Mummy Mountain. And let's see if we can get a good perspective here of where we are. I wanted to get a little further toward this end of Mummy Mountain. Sorry about the shaking here. I'm still on loose rock, and I guess I should invest in one of those camera holders that takes away all the shock and the bumps. But hey, you're getting an experience of exactly what I'm experiencing up here. You're basically traversing the plateau at the top of Mummy Mountain. And not a lot of people get up here because people don't know that it's here and they don't know how to approach it. As I said, there's no real clearly marked trail, and to get up to this point you really have to navigate a whole lot of rocky outcrops. But it's not really hard once you know how to get here. I didn't have to climb over anything that was taller than about 3 feet. So if you know where the stairs are, you can make it. So here we are approaching the edge. This would probably be the southern edge of Madre Mountain. And from here we're going to take a look at the landscape around us. I've been down on a lot of these locations that we're going to look at, and so we're going to see them from this perspective now. Now look at these trees. Who could create something like this? Okay, continuing on here, we're almost at the edge. Okay, here we are at the edge of Madre Mountain, probably we call this the southwestern edge. And from there, this is basically that cliff that we were looking at from below. And so we try to figure out where it's easy to see Griffith Peak. And the ridge that leads to Mount Charleston. No problem there. To look down and see Lee Canyon and the ski area. And by the way, we skirted the base of this cliff on the way up just a moment ago. And if you're traveling from the summit of Mount Charleston, you don't want to descend all the way down to that trail down there. You want to miss what we call the horrible half, or the, it wasn't horrible, it was horrifying. The horrifying half, what you do is you continue along the North Trail and then take a left and go along this ridge system here. And there's a way to do it. There's another trail that keeps appearing and disappearing, but you can do it. Here you can see the ridge that we came up just a moment ago. And we circled around and hit the base of this cliff, and then traversed the base of this cliff, found the V opening, and then ascended to the top. Okay, now let's see what we can see around here. What I'd really like to see is a view of the Madre Mountain. And you can see cliffs all around us. And we are definitely right at fun edge of the cliff system. But I believe that the Keystone Thrust and Madre Mountain area is down in this area, and that high point to the left is actually the highest point. I believe that's Madre Mountain. And then you can see to the right of that, there's a kind of ridge. That would be the Keystone Thrust, and we have views standing on that ridge looking up to this point, straight across down this way. You really can't see it too well behind those mountains, but I can very faintly see the Las Vegas Strip right between these two heights. And again, I think the one on the right is La Madre Mountain and the Keystone Thrust. And then we're looking over this way to Centennial Hills area. And what I want to do is get a view of Gas Peak. I can't do it from this point, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. Just a quick view here. You can see a great view of Charleston Village, 4,000 to 4,500 feet directly below us. So we ascended all of that distance in just this space of miles. I bet if we were to draw a straight line down there, that straight line would be approximately 2 or 3 miles. So that's how rapidly we ascended. And then you see there's a green valley over here. That is the area that we ascend to go up the Griffith Peak trail. We cross that little valley. Let's make sure we've got it in the screen here. Yeah, I believe it's right in the center and across Kyle Canyon. There we go. So we cross that a couple times. We circle around a little bit to the right and then ascend the South Climb Trail. And right now I'm up here rather than over there because 2 weeks ago I couldn't get beyond 9,000 feet. I'm at 11,500 right now on this side, but on that side there's still a lot of snow, a lot of steep snow banks that it's just drudgery to navigate, and also you're hanging on for dear life. There's Griffith Peak. So we'll be standing on Griffith Peak not too long into the future. So, and the trailhead that we just, where we began, right down in this area. And what you're seeing, that little circular gravel area, that's the parking lot for the trailhead. So we came up the canyon and yeah, we did a lot of rapid ascent here. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the summit now, which is just an easy walk along here, and we're going to see if we can see Gas Peak area. Here we are on the Mummy Mountain summit. Not too much higher than I was earlier, but it is the true summit. And here you see somebody's made a final pathway here. The golden pathway. And here you can see the climber's box. Curiously enough, I've never signed it. And here's the other side of Mummy Mountain. We came up, we just traversed this side, so you can see that it's a plateau that just goes on, and then over that hill over there, it continues on. It's a huge plateau and truly, truly beautiful. So here we are looking at Griffith Peak, the ridge that leads to Mount Charleston. And by the way, there's a great circuit, Griffith Peak, 11,060 feet, to Mount Charleston, 11,900 feet, and then over to Mummy, 11,500 feet. And you can actually, once you get up to 11,000, you can stay up at that level as long as you traverse this little ridge system right here in the center of the screen. So you stay at around 11,000 feet, except for topping the mountains. And you can make the whole ridge system. Here is the Charleston Observatory. You see it right there in the center of the screen. So now we're on the other side, really. Now, the big question is, where is Gas Peak? Because we've certainly looked at Mummy Mountain from Gas Peak. Can we see Gas Peak from Mummy Mountain? And there, down in the valley behind the observatory, you see Centennial Hills, and there's a lot of haze down there, but Gas Peak would be one of those hazy hills, the highest one actually, probably in the center of the screen. You barely see it above, just to the left of that valley and Centennial Hills. You can barely see it, but there it is, and that's about 7,000 feet, and have a whole page on the website on Gas Peak. So it's an adventure in itself. And then behind Gas Peak, that area in the center of the screen, we're looking at the Sheep Range. The reason they call it the Sheep Range, it's for bighorn sheep, and it's a refuge for them. It's a part of the Desert National Wildlife Refuge, which, basically you're looking at that refuge in the Sheep Range and everything to the right. It's the largest wildlife refuge in the lower 48 states. So, very interesting place to be. It's not as beautiful as this because there's not as much greenery on Gas Peak especially. But when you're on the top of Gas Peak, you can look straight down to Las Vegas, and the only view The only way you can get a view like that from Gas Peak is if you are in an airplane. So Gas Peak does have an incredible view. Now we're looking at, I believe right in this area, we're in the center, we're looking at La Madre Mountain. The La Madre Mountain Wilderness area around La Madre Mountain is actually 4 times the size of Red Rock Park. And to the right of La Madre Mountain, the highest point there on the left side, to the right is the Keystone Thrust. We have traversed the top of the Keystone Thrust and looked up at the Mount Charleston area. You can see from the La Madre Mountain page where we're looking up from that mountain system. And behind La Madre Mountain area is Red Rock Park and Calico Basin. So, and you can see the lighter brown color. The green, the darker green is the Keystone Thrust, that ridge system. The lighter brown behind is actually, looking down toward Red Rock Park and Calico Basin. And we'll see more of that from Griffith Peak when we top Griffith Peak. So that pretty much gives you a good 360-degree view from the top of Mummy Mountain and a lot of the places that we have been in this greater Las Vegas area. And once again, the temperature here is about 60 to 70, a nice breeze. Just 30 miles away in Las Vegas, in those valleys that we're looking at right in the center, they are experiencing 100-degree plus temperatures at this moment. So pretty interesting how that goes. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our Mummy Mountain experience for the day, and I hope you take a chance to take the opportunity to climb up Mummy Mountain. Here's one of the occupants of the mountain. Probably took this character about 5 minutes to ascend the mountain. Show off. Okay, anyway, that is it for the day. Signing off. By the way, I just realized that in that valley down there, this valley that you can see, there's a town, and I believe that's the town of Pahrump. And if you look above that town to the mountains on the horizon, the highest one there in the center, you can very dimly see it. Let's see. Yeah, the highest one in the center, I believe, is Telescope Peak. And at the base of Telescope Peak, of course, is Death Valley. And you look straight down on the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, negative 280 something feet below sea level. And Telescope Peak is 11,300 feet. We'll hopefully stand on Telescope Peak before the end of this summer. And so basically we're looking at an area from this 11,500 feet summit, Mummy Mountain. We're looking close to an area that is the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, negative 281 feet. So that shows how the heights vary, and I can pretty much guarantee that the temperature down there today is around 120 degrees, and that would be, if you drew a straight line from here to Telescope Peak, 75, 100 miles max. And to the right of Telescope Peak, you can dimly see some snow-capped mountains. Those may be the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Not sure, but if you get a map out and start drawing lines, you can see where we are in relation to Mount Charleston, and we're on Mummy Mountain. If you start drawing lines, which I may do later, you'll have more of an idea what those landmarks are. But I think we're looking at Telescope Peak, and then in the distance to the right and behind, we're looking at the Sierra Nevada mountain range. And there I'd say we're looking at around 250 miles from here. But isn't it amazing that you've got a view that you can see so far? You can almost see the curvature of the earth from this location. So anyway, that is the we're going to do one more video before we're done. That video is going to be getting you back to the V-shaped canyon from this spot, just so you never miss it if you're up here and then get disoriented. It definitely can happen. So anyway, that'll come up next. Okay, I want to help you get back to the V-shaped canyon that is the one of the only routes back down off of Mummy Mountain. Gets very confusing. This is such a long mountain that if you miss this canyon, you're going to be going to the edge of cliffs and wondering if you spend the rest of your life up here. So here's the summit, and from the summit, go down this nice little pathway. We're going to look at a few landmarks. So you got to look at the bristlecone pines that have fallen. There's a few down there that are bleached in the sun, and of course you've got Mount Charleston over to the left, but you're continuing on down here. And see, this is what you don't want to do, is you don't want to head off in that direction. You look at this hoary old bleached bristlecone pine that has died years ago. That is a sign that you're on the right path. Okay, so you continue, and what do you know? Here is a little cairn, little pile of rocks. And if you look carefully, you can see there's one here. And then you look over this direction, you can see one on the other side. And when you see two of those, usually means go right down the center, and also just keep Mount Charleston at this point dead center. So we go right over the edge, and this is the one edge you can go over and not end up going down the side of a cliff. And here we are, and you can see a faint trail And this is going to take us right down the V-shaped canyon, which is, again, the only way you're going to get off of Mummy Mountain. And of course, gravel, the footing's not so great, but there you see the V-shaped canyon, and straight dead center, Mount Charleston, and that's the way to get back down. You want to have those coordinates once you're at the top, so that you don't get lost and end up spending the rest of your life up on Mummy Mountain. Okay, signing off.